To today's meeting, board meeting, and the time is 5 o'clock. And we will begin by calling the meeting to order, and start with a moment of silence followed by the pledge of the republic.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Claire, we're now open for public comment. Would you like to read your statement?
Public comment periods will be held at the beginning of the scheduled meeting and limited to a maximum of 30 minutes. Each person desiring to speak shall clearly state their name and will have a maximum of 3 minutes to make his or her remarks. A speaker may not speak more than once during the same public comment period, and unused time may not be yielded to another speaker. To avoid repetition, groups of individuals who expect to have the same or similar comments are encouraged to select a spokesperson to speak on their behalf. Public comment is not intended to require the board to answer any impromptu questions. The board should refrain from engaging in dialogue except to the extent necessary to clarify the speaker's position. The board shall not entertain questions from the audience, and discussions between speakers and members of the audience shall be prohibited. Speakers shall maintain proper decorum and make their comments in a civil manner. Personal attacks and use of obscene and profane language are prohibited. Speaker comments should be limited to subjects that are within the board's jurisdiction. Actions on items brought up during the public comment period will be at the discretion of the board. Before we begin, I would like to say that we had somebody submit a written public comment, so I don't know how, we've not had that before. If when the board wants to read it, you want me to read it, or the person who brought it read it, so.
I think we can let the person that brought it.
Okay, because I know that person wants to speak their 3 minutes, and then they want to read the letter that was submitted via
Well,
writing.
you didn't say that up front.
Sorry.
That's
You're talking
important to know.
One person submitted,
Submitted comments in writing. They're not present tonight.
they're not present tonight,
Mhm.
but they want it to be read into a record or been read
Just read it
by
during the
someone
public
else who
comment
is also
period.
speaking.
Well, it doesn't need to be. I was just asking as an option what the board wanted, how you wanted that handled,
I
because
think
we've never had anybody
you're-
submit.
if they're okay with you reading it out. That you-
Okay. So do you want me to do that first? Do you want to open up that to the floor?
You can do it first, because
Okay.
we're in public comment.
All right, okay. Which is, it's not long, so it won't take long to read, but I think, he gave everybody a copy of this as well. So the comments from Tessa Sneed. When I went with my dad, Robert Sneed, to the election office to get my ID card, I noticed that upon entry that the man my dad said was Seth Lemon had a bad attitude. When my dad tried to explain why the camera wasn't getting a clear picture for my ID, Mr. Lemon seemed to get even more ill-tempered. The afternoon sun was washing out the picture because of too much light. He wasn't professional, and your ID card system is flawed. Thank you, Teresa Sneed.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Sneed, can you
Yes,
give her
ma'am.
a copy?
No, I only had 3 copies.
Oh, here you go.
That's fine, I don't
I didn't have,
I don't
Oh, you didn't get one.
You didn't give mine away.
no, I'll just get it later.
But-
Bye.
All right.
Hello, Dana Vasquez, Spring Lake. I looked at the new website, I know they're upgrading the website and whatnot, and I did not see the board meeting schedule on there, so if that,
It's on there toward the bottom. I think under, it has meetings. What is it called?
it's,
Yes, it's labeled meetings toward the bottom of the screen.
I think it had the minutes from old meetings, but I'm not sure it had, I'll double check.
Yeah, it's on the main page.
Okay.
Okay, I'm with Robert Sneed. I asked Ms. Jones to put me on for regular business. She refused, so she only gave me 3 minutes. What Bill's gonna talk about tonight is not what I'm talking about. I have applied 4 times for the assistant director position, election specialist. I have applied once for the election specialist job. There is only action on my 5 applications has been received. You hired Ms. Cook, from my understanding, who is not a VA preference. Okay? I am a disabled vet. And in the packets that I'm gonna hand out after I get done speaking, you'll see the law for veterans preference. And there's a lot more information contained that 3 minutes is not gonna cover. So I would like you guys' consideration and close, careful inspection. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
It's gonna come out. Very unique cup.
If you have an extra.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice? Okay. All right, public comment session is now closed. We'll move into, meeting minutes approval for January 30th, 2024.
So everybody has before them a copy of the January 30th meeting. This was also emailed to everybody, so if you didn't get a chance to review it, you can now. Otherwise, a motion to approve would be in
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This is the one to sign.
Okay, the board is now moving to business. First item is budget review.
So everybody has before them a copy of an Excel spreadsheet with the budget, as well as the pay sheet for the general election workers. Again, this is just a review. This isn't the final draft or anything. This is what I talked about the last meeting that I was going to bring, where you could see it and we can discuss anything else you want to see added to the budget or taken out of the budget. And I know the question also came up about possibly doing a pay increase for the election workers. I just started off because what we did in the past was usually like $10 increases in increments. And so if we did add a $10 increase to the election workers, that would add an additional, we would need an additional $18,000 for election worker pay. So that's not a crazy number, but again, I know that was discussed, wanting to maybe give them some sort of increase. So that's kind of where, that's what $10 would look like. As far as the line items, so on the far right-hand side is basically what we would need for the different items. You can see the different account descriptions and what underneath there is included. but I wanted to highlight, partway down the top of that page in green, at the bottom of the page in green. Those are in green because those are potential, like recounts or, recount notices. So that tends to go in our contingency fund, not necessarily our phase forward budget account. So that's why that line item is a little bit different from the rest of them. This budget does include, again, another expo before the presidential election, the poll worker appreciation we had discussed. What else did it? The billboards, water bill advertising, additional signs, radio advertising, etc. So it has all those things that we had previously discussed, but I wanted you guys to have a chance to look at this and see if there was anything else you wanted me to work in or calculate the price of to see if we can add it to, or again, take out from the budget before I do the official one for the county. And again, we'll discuss this at the next meeting. Well, I'll show you, we'll finalize it hopefully at the next meeting.
So are we open to discuss this?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
We've talked about keeping poll workers, maintaining, and pay is not everything. But I move that we give them at least a $10 a day increase. Or I would like that. It may not be a motion yet, but
Mhm.
And did you say the number that you did does include the increase or does not?
The number that's on here does not include it. So I would just have to add again, if it's $10, it would be, I would add 18,000 to that.
If we added, you're saying if we added $10 a day for each?
Mhm. For all
And
chief
that's,
judge assistants and,
okay, now, are they paid by hour,
they're paid per diem. So they're paid by the day, not by the hour.
by the day, so just,
Mhm.
okay.
And what is the per diem rate?
So that's on that other sheet, so it gets kind of,
Is that on the back?
yeah, you should have a second
Okay.
sheet, yeah. So it's different, so for early voting, because the hours are different for the weekdays, the Saturdays and Sundays, it breaks out a little bit differently depending on their role. That's why I printed this out for you.
Gotcha.
So a chief judge makes about $255 for election day. The assistant's 40, 80, that 185 for the day. So that would be just, like I said, including, that would just be increasing that $10 for, across the board for all of them.
That's a 13-hour day, I guess.
Mhm.
Is it overtime after 8 hours?
That's why it's per diem, per day.
And
I
that's the
personally
10,
don't have a problem with the additional 10.
and that's $10, over what we have been doing since when? When did they get their last increase,
I think,
you know?
I want to say it may have been 2 years ago. It may have been 2022 that we did the last increase. Typically during our big election years is when we, that budget for the big election year is when we start talking about those increases.
So, 22, the midterms is when we're going, is that when?
I think it would have been the 2022 general election,
General.
because that budget wouldn't have taken effect until July.
And now the discussion is on asking that be added to our budget, which we're submitting. And
Yeah,
that's in the form of a motion.
I don't know that necessarily.
I
needs
did,
to be-
I kind of withdrew it as a motion, but I just,
Yeah, if that's what the board
I
wants me
was
to.
throwing it out, but if you would like a motion, I would be glad to present one.
Well, then I'll second it.
Okay, all right. The motion is that we increase poll worker pay by $10 per day.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to add with the way our economy is, with the inflationary impact that we're having, and the value of the dollar dropping, and all of the other things, we're lucky that we're able to get people to do this. So that's certainly, if it was 2 years ago that they got a $10 increase, they're not even yet with that. So I think that's modest, and that certainly should be something that the commissioners should consider.
Let me ask you this. $10 is, it is modest, of course. What if we increase that to 15? Be worth their while. To give them, they feel like they've got a raise, because if you give them $10 and then, that, how taxes work.
Well, poll worker pay, they don't necessarily get taxed.
They don't tax that.
Because a lot of our election workers, they're retired or whatever, they work election worker. But the statutes does allow for them not to have taxes withdrawn, aside from their FICA. And I can get a better explanation on that for you, but, Janice,
So we
what
give
was it with the FICA and the poll workers?
Yes, so the FICA was if it was below $2,000,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't have to be withheld. However, we decided to withhold that because if someone works this election and then again in the fall, some poll workers actually owed the county money back because then they went over that threshold and they were working for the day and they owed us money back, and so it became an issue.
So we take the FICA out, but the rest of the taxes, they can choose not to pay.
They were able to choose, yeah.
And doing 15 would, of course, be an extra 9,000. Would that put them in that,
Tax category.
that fight where they'd have to give that any back?
It would just depend on what their schedule was, because if they just worked election day, it wouldn't affect them, but if they start working all the early votings, that's when they accumulate more money. So it would just depend on the poll worker and how many days they chose to work.
I would not be opposed to going 15, because this coming up year's gonna be a trying year, with being, if it's not gonna hurt us, to do that, I would say 15. That way they know they've got $10 is easily absorbed. Like Bill said, with the inflation economy where it is.
Well, right now we have a motion and a second on
Okay.
the table, so
Call the
for
question.
the 10, so I guess we need to go ahead and vote on that first.
Yeah, call the question, please.
All those in favor?
Go ahead.
Aye.
Aye.
So-
Opposed?
Alright, so we're going with so $10 is what it sounds like we're gonna do. Was there anything else that you guys have thought about in the last month about adding or whatever? Nancy?
The software that we saw,
Okay.
had the, where I don't know if, Mr. Curran and Mr. Bell and Mr. McNutt had a chance to see. There's a software available that can, keep track of all of the training of the poll workers, can keep track of their hours. It would give Claire the ability to upload videos so that people would be required to watch these videos beforehand. There were all kinds of things that I think it could really help the efficiency of the office. I don't know if he ever got you any.
He hasn't got anything to me yet, so it's Integra.
Integra.
Integra. So they were one of the vendors out there. What they're gonna do is send some information, some pricing guides. So we don't necessarily have to like motion on it today, but we can certainly, once I get that information, forward it to you guys. They did say they could do a webinar where we can kind of like log in to see what they have to offer, and then the whole board can be a part of that. He just hasn't sent me the information yet. So that's something I can, kind of draft in there to kind of account for that, and then we can decide after you guys view that software.
Did they mention a price point?
They
He
told
didn't.
me 12,000, around 12,000
Yeah.
per year.
But he said it depended on
Yeah.
the registration numbers, so he's supposed to be getting a packet together to send.
Well, certainly we can look at that package.
So,
I don't know if there's enough in all these other things that we felt like we need. You know, if we need to put anything in there for that, or,
yeah, I'll just kind of jot it in there, and then when we get more information, we can certainly put it into a line item, and then we can review that the next.
and I guess the earliest we would do it would be June, so it would be half a year, so.
But if we at least have
Yeah,
a
so that
price
makes
range, we can
Yeah.
earmark it in there,
Our next meeting will be on election day.
yes.
Okay.
Our next regular meeting will
Right.
be March 5th, yes, but we'll have lots of absentees in between. Of course, like I said, if we don't have any suggestions today, that's perfectly fine. This is just, like I said, a rough draft of the budget. I wanted you to see this, have something to look at. If you have any questions in the next several weeks, up until the next meeting, I can certainly look at other things as well.
Are the boards, our pay on here too?
So the board gets paid under the top section where it has salary and wages contract, and that's where the board pay is.
What's the half a month in there?
So that's because of the way the county payroll is actually the 15th of the
Okay.
month to the 16th of the next, so we have to also budget for a half month.
Alright, so we're not.
No, we don't have to take any action on this. This is just for your information to review and then to, you know, get with me if you have any suggestions. And then once we finalize it, I'm hoping that we'll be able to finalize it and approve it by the next regular meeting. Because typically it's due to the county manager by May. But I'm not entirely sure on the deadline just yet, so I'll have to get back with you guys on that.
So on the back there, that
Or
figure,
March.
I'm sorry,
March, I think, is when it's due to the county manager.
the figure on the back is $454,405
Yes.
for total elections,
Everything.
everything, okay?
And as you can see on the backside, the largest lump of our money is election workers. That's where the biggest amount of our money goes, is paying for election workers.
Well, without them.
I know,
We don't do
we couldn't do it without them, exactly.
They deserve it.
I mean, 15 is the stretch, maybe halfway point. But
Can we revisit that then? You think 15 would be good?
I just said it might be a little stretch for the
Could we,
commissioners.
could we revisit that
If it was
then?
my check, it wouldn't be, but,
Yeah.
I mean, you could go ahead, Mr. Bell, make a motion if you want to.
yeah, that was the
I mean,
thing.
that's
that
exactly,
motion
it's a board.
Okay, all right, then I make a motion that we do it at 15 as opposed to the 10.
I'll second it. Discussion? I don't think we should do it because we're pushing our luck. I wanna make sure that the budget is approved, and I think that's too much of a jump. for
I
one
think
time, so-
midpoint would have been a little better.
Midpoint, like 1250. Do I need to withdraw my motion?
You wanna amend your motion?
Yeah, let's amend my motion into, instead of 10, 1250.
Okay, that one I'll second.
You like that?
Anyone, any more discussion? Call the question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Call no.
All those against? I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm like, it's been a long day.
It has been a long.
Yeah, we started early this morning.
Yeah.
All those opposed?
Would you restate the motion, please?
The motion is, instead of 10, for poll workers, we go 1250.
Yeah, but the verbiage is what he wants.
So what now?
He wants what, how the words go. How, you know the dollar amount, what?
$12.50 a day for the poll workers.
Yes.
Yeah, election.
All those,
You just
so we have
raised-
3-4. All those against?
I'm against.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'll vote against it. It changes it from 18,000 to 22,500 is the increase.
So it passes 3-2.
Okay.
And again, like I said, if you have any other suggestions, certainly reach out to me. Alright. That out of the way. Alright, so the next item on discussion, next item of business was to discuss the hiring process for the assistant elections director. I know we've kind of changed this periodically throughout the different processes, with the different openings we've had, so this is, the board's time to discuss this and make a decision as to how we want to move forward with the hiring process.
Yeah, can we open the floor to just discussion?
Yes.
All right. I've consulted with the State Board of Election, a couple of the board members, as well as 2 of the legal team. And I've also researched it myself. The law is very clear that the board has the sole responsibility to hire and dismiss the election director. The board can also delegate that authority to the election director for the hiring of an assistant as well as full staff. And as long as the other board members are not involved in the selection process, that would be legal. If we have 1 or 2 that want to meet with the election director and go over the applications and et cetera, then that's a different ball of wax. Then it requires the board to have a unanimous vote on the approval. So it's a little bit of a gray area. You know how laws are and how lawyers are. You get 2 answers, one on one side and one on the other, and the gray area in between is where we are.
Or the sky's blue as it was this morning.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, it's we did have the benefit of Professor Joyce's presentation. I thought it was very interesting, and it was right on point, subject matter. And it certainly is clear in my mind that that division of responsibility should be done. I have an additional area of concern. If that happens, and the director has that full authority, as a board member, I'd like to have at least some sort of knowledge or input as to who it is and what choices there are, some sort of a review process before we go ahead and do it. I think that's, since the responsibility for the entire process and staff rests with the board, I'd like to have that assurance, if we do that, that I have a chance to look at it and concur with the election director's choice. And that's specific now just for this one area. So those are my thoughts on it right now. Anyone else?
Well,
Did the board not unanimously approve the appointment of the secretary and the chair and the director in previous minutes? That's a question.
I remember that did take place, but according to the statute, we can delegate total responsibility to the election director to have complete authority and autonomy in her selection of her support staff. Well, what we have now is we have not fully delegated that to the director. We have created a subcommittee where the director and 2 board members are making decisions that's not parallel with the statute. We're having the minority of the board involvement, and as we can see, there has been some concerns. There's been some issues that board members are being left out. So, in my understanding, meeting with state board as well as the legal team is either we're going to let the director do it or the board will do it. But what we have now is kind of a yeah, that's a better word, because we got the minority of the board making decisions for the entire board, which that's not statute. That's the concern. And I don't know if y'all noticed that we had, Harnett County came up in several scenarios at the board. I didn't feel good about that.
Let me just let the record know that when this initially started, it was for all board members, because Claire had a responsibility. It had been abdicated to her by the former chair to do that. We took it back, but then it fell out that not all board members at the time wanted to.
Who did?
But I did not abdicate my role. You were with me at one point, but then you abdicated yours. I never did.
Who didn't want to be part of it?
So, I'm telling you my perspective. I do know that you were with me with wanting to do the interviews.
I did, yeah.
Then, when the others fell off, you abdicated yours, and I did not.
That's because you told
Claire
me.
came and the next meeting and stated that she had decided the best way to handle it would to have a bipartisan, because I had not abdicated my role. And she chose to have a Republican and a Democrat. And we all voted, did we not?
In talking with the legal team again,
Well, I just want to put it on the record because I don't want it to show that we willy-nilly, everything was voted on, members abdicated certain roles except for myself.
I don't understand willy-nilly what's that.
Meaning you were for it before you were against it.
No, I've always been for it. In fact, as Mr. Cox recalled, we had conversations with me, 3 members of the board being in a location together for board business, and that it would violate the open meeting law. So therefore, I was left out.
Can I have a point of order, please? We're getting off track. You may want to talk back and forth, that's fine, but I think we should address the issue of whether or not we're going to give full authority
Like I
for
said, I just
hiring
wanted
to
to put
the.
that on the record that
I think we
that
did.
is not
Well,
how
I'm
it
sure
happens.
that's on
So
the
we're
record,
going
right?
to
So noted.
end
Yeah.
it
Yes.
there.
We want
We
clarification.
got it on the record.
And the meeting's recorded, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at this point, is there any objection to giving her that full authority with the caveat that we have an opportunity to at least review her decision before it's finalized? And that would, in my mind, that would go not only for the assistant election director, but also for any staff. Now, I have a second point after we get over this one on the staff.
So what's your motion?
I don't think it's a motion. I think
We
it's-
were just discussing it.
Oh,
But in a question with that, Bill, when issues come up regarding personnel, i.e. complaints, is that going to be handled from the board? Or is that going to be the sole responsibility?
Is that a new
Oh,
one?
correct.
That's another point, yeah. Do you want to address that point too? So you got a
Yeah.
combined motion?
Well, yeah, we're
Uh,
Wait, I have a point I want to make.
Yeah.
This board is not bound by previous board, but this is the history of that.
All right.
In previous secretary and the previous chair, it was decided that they would look at the applications and go through with the hiring. So this board picked that up and we approved it. That's the history of it, but this board's not bound by previous board.
But we are bound by statute.
Agreed.
Yeah, there's nothing in the statute to say that, because we're agreed to do something, that if it's not a statute, it's valid.
We all
So-
agree to that, and
Yeah,
that's why
that's-
we
that-
have no
that's true.
discussion.
Yeah,
So
we
did you
have
wanna say
learned-
something?
In conference, that there is some concerns that we have, and we need to take steps to correct, to have a, that's what I'm looking for, conducive environment to good government. Right now, we don't seem to have that.
Let me make
How is
another
that?
comment about staff.
Yeah, I didn't either.
As far as staff is concerned, which is the additional issue that we're talking about now, I believe that the election director should have full authority to hire whoever she chooses. Again, with the same caveat that we get a little bit of advance notice of what decision is going to be before it's finalized. And then as an ongoing practice, I would suggest that we have a a report card by her on her staff submitted to us every quarterly, every 6 months. So we have an idea whether she's happy with them or not, if they're doing a good job, if they need improvement, if they need more training. We can assist and do whatever we have to do at that time.
If I might just, I will say that we do a yearly review of the staff.
Yearly?
Yeah, so I can certainly share that with the board, but if you want it done more than yearly, I mean, make sure that's clarified too, because we just do a yearly.
Okay, well, I'm putting it out there to see if anybody has any thoughts on it.
Okay, just let me know.
Well, probably initial hires, maybe at a 6 month. What's the cutoff for, is it still?
For the county, it's 6 months. They have a 6 month, they're a probation for 6 months, and after 6 months, they come off of probation. And then they do reviews every year after that.
Well, there may be a 6-month time
Like
period
initial
every 6.
hire, 6 months.
Yeah, but I
and
don't
then
want it to be
afterwards-
built into, to be one time and we don't hear from them again. I think it should be renewable every 6
I'm
months.
saying for the initial hire, 6 months, so we don't find out at a year's point in time there were issues. And then annually, as you were saying.
Okay, that's your thought. Any other thoughts?
Yeah. and
I like a report card on how staff's doing and, again, what do we do when it comes to concerns that our voting public may have about staff? How's that addressed?
Well, that'll be a black mark on their record, won't it?
Wait a minute, I didn't hear what you said. What did you say?
Say it again.
If there's issues with personnel where there are concerns or grievances or even complaints, who would be the authority in investigating and rendering a decision? How's that go?
Initially, go ahead.
Well, I mean, you said applicate it to the director, right?
Yeah.
And then we get to review the new hires every 6 months and annually. So the board has not applicated on it.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I think.
I would think.
Yeah, what I'm talking about, or what I'm trying to say here is if there are issues such as past employees who have left the employment of the county, and of course, learning that there were some issues that the majority of the board had no knowledge of. How do we address that? How do we handle that?
Well, who has the knowledge?
The people in charge of hiring.
Okay, well then we would expect her to give us a report if she's having an issue with an employee.
Yeah, because we haven't had that in the past, so why do we do that?
Maybe there were no
We
issues.
said that, yeah. Well, yeah, there is,
I think we're talking moving forward, right?
well, yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to move forward here.
I
And
understand.
I would like to, I mean, I would love to move the board forward and not have our name especially, conference called out.
Any other comments? Because I'm ready to make a motion if everybody's finished talking.
Yes, in previous state board trainings, one of the things that sticks out with me, it said to the board, don't try to manage the office. Let the staff manage the office, per se. Okay.
Okay, I'll comment on that comment. That's a good idea generally, but anything that the staff or the election director or assistant do reflects and the responsibility comes back to us.
Yeah, it does.
So we have to have our fingers in the pot somewhere.
Oh, I don't
And,
disagree
we're
with
trying-
that, and every employee needs some kind of redress after they come off of probation, but I would assume there are statutes or at least ordinances in place for that.
I don't know if this is helpful or not, but yes, so in our personnel ordinance, Claire can do disciplinary action warnings. And it is a 3-strike rule essentially. There's an oral, a written, and then a final written. And all of those are documented, all of those are reviewed by HR before the department head would meet with the employee. So we look at that and see what other disciplinary actions have been in the file. Then they meet with the employee, then it comes back to HR. So we do keep a record of that. I think in the past year, I'm not aware of any issues where there have been any oral or written warnings issued for any of the staff for Board of Elections or anything that's come up that would cause that.
Is that generated by the department head?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would just ask for a copy of that sent to the board.
Well, here's the other thing is, since the relationship that we have with the county and the sports state is one that's kind of complex, I don't know how it works. But would it not be, maybe we need to have somebody from the state to come and give us a, some sort of in-service or some sort of, if you will, training. But how do we handle these situations? Because you've got two entities involved. And we don't want our employees having to do the, you know, who do I report to, who do I do this? Where do I go to air my grievance? Where do I, so,
Well, I don't see that as an eventuality, but it might happen.
yeah, good.
I think that the election director is competent enough to control her staff. And if any issue comes up to the point where they would be reporting something to the HR, I would just want, as a board, be involved in it also, just for the reporting, so we know about it.
We should, because we haven't had that.
At least to be aware that it's happened.
Right.
Because we didn't, with the past employees, we never got that.
But
Yeah.
that was before us, at least my term, your term. So I don't know what happened.
Well, we're trying to fix it.
Our last assistant director, I think that was, yeah, we hired that, you hired it, yeah.
I wasn't aware of any issues with the last assistant.
No, there were we've not had any issues where we had to do any disciplinary actions
Right.
against any staff.
So,
And as I recall, the reason that we started the hiring committee, which I feel like is authorized under the statute, was a concern about the diversity of the staff. And I think, you know, the thought was if we have a Democrat and a Republican on the committee, you know, it would be a more equitable process than just leaving it with Claire. I'm perfectly fine with leaving it with Claire, but I do think that that was a concern, you know, still may be a concern because there still is a lack of diversity at the county and at the office, but I don't know what the reason, you know, anyway, as I recall, that was part of the reason we did this committee was the lack of diversity. There's still a lack of diversity. I do think that's a perception in the community at large, and I think having the committee help address that concern of the general populace.
Well, I would think as a comment on that, I would think the confidence in the community would be if all the 5 members of the board did it, not a subcommittee. And I asked that question specifically with a lawyer this morning, and I was told that if the board is involved with any decisions of that nature, it can't just be a subcommittee, it has to be the majority of the full board.
Yes.
So we can't legally do it with just a subcommittee.
The county board of elections shall have the authority by resolution adopted by majority vote to delegate to the director of the election so much of the administrative detail of the election functions, duties, and work of the board, its officers and members, as is now or may hereafter be invested in the board, or its members as the county board may see fit. So to me, that says you can have a subcommittee, but, you know, if we got something in writing from Paul. I'm fine with just having Claire do it. I think having the whole board do it is a bad decision.
So the issue seems to be with the subcommittee as opposed to not the entire board, but then turn it to Claire, is that?
Correct.
Yeah, you have to
Okay.
give her full autonomy, or you can't have a subcommittee where you got the minority members of the board making
Or
a
you can do the
decision on
board.
person.
You can do the board, her, or the sub.
Is there anyone that does not want to be involved in it?
I'm of the consensus that hiring other than the director is the director's responsibility.
And that's fine.
And I
That's fine.
can live with that. Now, if hiring a new director, I've been in on that twice. And that I understand for the board, but I can go back with the other. But I think you'd need a motion to that effect to change what you've already done.
Yeah,
Somebody want to make a motion? I'll make it.
Make,
All right. I move that the Arnett County Board of Elections delegate all hiring authorities to its executive director, with the caveat that we have a report from the executive director as to her assessment or his assessment of the staff. And that be done every 6 months.
I can second that
every 6 months for the new
For the review, yeah.
for
hire,
review.
then yearly for
Subsequently.
as they continue.
Yes, if you want to add that
the 6 months.
amendment? Yeah, okay, well,
But
6
that's what
months,
we said originally, for new hires, 6 months, and then everyone else has been on.
yearly,
Yeah.
that's fine, I'd accept that amendment.
So 6 months, then
And
have a
then-
6-month point, the 1-year point, and then 1 year after
Yeah,
that.
subsequent yearly.
Okay, would not HR play a role in this as well? Are you providing information, or do you?
I can help provide in any capacity to Claire, but yes, I do work with all department directors with the reviews, they're actually reviewed by HR before they even meet with the employees, so yes, I can help with that.
Call the question.
Okay, so we have a motion, Lois, you seconded?
Oh,
You
yes.
second, okay.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Read the motion.
I paraphrase, Bill, will you please state that again?
Yes, I move that the board delegate all hiring responsibilities for staff to the election director with a 6-month initial review of the staff and subsequent annual review submitted to the board.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? There. All right, so that was all the business that we had as far as that went. I know the next item of business, Bill had a few things he wanted to discuss before we go into our absentee meeting, so at this point, I'll turn it over to
Okay, thank you.
Bill. And I did, everybody has some copies of some statutes that you had already asked me about in advance, so if you need to reference them, you should have the majority of what you need to be discussing.
I have several comments and suggestions to make to the board, and open for discussion. I've been on the board since July, so I'm a newbie, you know, but I've been doing this stuff my whole life. I've been involved as a president of several state organizations and chair of national organizations. I've been a legislative consultant and lobbyist for many professional organizations in DC, New York, Wisconsin, New Mexico, Arizona, several others. And I have been involved in more board meetings that I want to admit to, but it's given me a good broad overview of things. And one of the things that I want to see if we can achieve as a board is, I use the word demystifying the election process for our community. I think it's something that I talk to people, I say, are you registered? Oh, I'm not going to vote. And that type of response is not really adequate for a citizen. They don't teach civics any longer in school. So I think it's important that we in our outreach programs be involved in educating the community in various ways. It can take all kinds of forms, but especially being able to go in and talk to, make brief presentations to, for example, high schools, colleges, civic organizations, any group that we would have an opportunity to go in and say, well, this is how this really works. And you as a citizen have a responsibility to do this, just like you have a responsibility to serve on jury duty when you're called. Those are one of the two responsibilities of citizenship. The third one is pay your taxes. All right, so I think that if people get a better feel for us and they understand that we're people trying to work for them and give them a free and fair election, we're going to get response that we want, which is community activity and people coming out to vote. Because if we can accomplish that, we're doing all the other stuff on the other side. We're dotting the I's and crossing the T's to make sure that we do everything correctly. We don't want any shenanigans. We don't want any fraud in our votes. We want to trust our votes. But the only way we're going to be able to get that trust is to demonstrate to the community our professionalism and an open education of what's going on. So I think that what we have to do, there's several little things right in the beginning. One, and I really enjoyed this exercise we had today because it's actually the way it should be done. We should have discussions on things. It should be open and everybody would know what we're doing and talking about. So I think that trying to follow as closely as we can to parliamentary procedures and Robert's rules is a good thing. It gives everyone an opportunity to be heard. And secondly, one of the things that we could do is, well, I've recommended several things. One is, I think each of the members of the board should have business cards. I think that should be provided to us. Business cards. Because when we go out and talk to someone, the first thing that anyone does is, here's my card. Well, it's all your contact information. It's a basic thing. And it exhibits professionalism. So we should have business cards, every one of us. We should have office emails, not our personal ones, but something that, with government at the end, .gov, okay? So people can contact us if they'd like to. And feel free to contact us. We're not magicians, we're not hiding anything. We want that transparency. Additionally, we should have something as easy as a slot box in the office where we have a mailing address, because some people might like to write us letters. And that's an easy thing to do. And there again, the people then feel like they're interacting with us, other than the 2 times.
Caller.
Oops, excuse me.
Is that a striptease?
Yeah, it's bad to the bone.
Right.
And it's
They
a,
striptease
it's
to
a
it,
spam
too.
call.
Yeah.
So anyway, we should have a mailing address, and all of this would then give us the impression of being a professional organization, and that breeds confidence. And there's many other things that we can do.
Let me add one thing.
Shoot.
I see that people have shirts with Harnett County, or when we were at the convention conference with their county, I think we should have something that we could wear to at least meetings or out if we come Thursday or whatever events that delineate us. So why not have t-shirts or whatever it is that you guys provide for
We got
That's a
to
great
put it in the
idea.
budget.
Huh?
You know,
We'll have
that,
to put it in the budget.
yeah, well, that's,
We'll put it in there.
yeah, that's the
because
type of
I've
thing-
asked about that before.
that's the type of thing that we should be doing. And, you know, we're humanizing this mysterious process of elections. And, you know, when you go out and deal with the community, you want to have that. You want them, you know, you want them to like you, and you want to like them. That's the relationship. I have a whole list of others. Just let me run through
No, I
quickly.
just knew it, so I slipped that in.
Okay, you got it in.
Yeah.
We're doing a quote advertising campaign. We now have our Facebook. I'm not a Facebook person, but a lot of people are. And we do the video of our meetings, which is excellent. I noticed that the commission has Board of Commissions has a review of activities that's also presented. And that got me thinking, as board members, we're inundated with not only the law book that's this thick, 163, but also numerous numbered memos that we get guidance from the State Board of Elections. Well, each of them have their little idiosyncrasies, and we have to go through them and see what it's about. Well, all of those things are going on all the time. The public doesn't even know that. So maybe we could have some sort of a summary and do a short video. This is what's happened in this numbered memo that was given to us today. They suggested that we do this, so we're incorporating that. And now the people say, boy, these guys are working all the time. All right? I'd like to see them see how much work we do, because the price is right. You know, they're getting all this work out of us for nothing, because they're volunteering. But some people have the impression that we only work on election day and primary day. Well, that's not quite the fact, and it's because we haven't broadcasted, we haven't told them about it. So I think that's something that we should consider doing. The community outreach program, I had mentioned some of the organizations, but give invitations out to all of the things that we can think of, Lions Club, Rotary Club, churches, the people that gather together, and then we can come out. I'm willing at any time, anywhere, to go out and talk to some folks. And it's not going to be a lengthy thing, although I'm verbose sometimes, but it's just brief. I want to let them know what we're doing. We're there to help, and we're working for the community, and we'd like their participation. So those are some of the recommendations. I think I have let me have any other comments that somebody would like to say outside of me talking?
Well, yeah, I've been speaking with some church leaders, one in particular, a leader who has 16 churches in, under his authority. And he gave me, he said he would be happy to have us come in and do outreach to get the information out through the board, through the churches, that sending direct mailings to the church body administration, as well as, again, just come out just speaking with them and letting them know. He was really excited about that. So I would love to work with you on doing some of that.
That's very positive. Anyone else?
I will if it's not
Go ahead.
around work hours. I'm
Well, I'm sure we can get after hours and weekends.
Bill, correction. In Harnett County schools, they do teach civics in high school.
All right, I stand corrected. Why don't they
You used to
implement
do
it?
that.
And I picked up some of those election 24s today to distribute to some of the civics classes. I have been out and spoke to classes before to see if they're registered. Did it 2 years ago. And most of the kids were registered when they at DMV, but they still don't always understand the process. And I have been in and spoke to classes about the process too. And I've spoken to my civic club about the process. But they were sometimes like the students, they were just kind of glazed over.
Well, that's exactly the
Yeah.
point I'm making, and of course, the next thing is, we have to reach out to them. They're not gonna just think one day, oh, let's call the Board of Elections, have them come over.
Right.
So we have to, part of our outreach is to identify who we're gonna speak with and solicit that request. And I think that's, you know, a big step forward, and that's what we should be doing. And does it require a motion?
Is there a list of all the different groups in Harnett County?
I would hope so. I don't have all of them. I've mentioned some.
We could get a list of the Harnett County churches, Civics Club, Rotary. Yeah, they're always looking for.
Yeah, those are the common ones out here, but I know there's gonna be more than those.
Oh, you bet. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Lions
civics,
Club,
Lions,
ladies
Rotary,
groups.
that love to hear people from the county come and talk to us about what we're talking about now.
Yeah, I would think if we work it a little bit, we could be busy every week.
We good. There's a club that I belong to that meets every week, and someone's always charged with getting a speaker for that week. So, or have speakers for the month, and
What club is
With that.
that?
it's the Dunn Rotary. That they have many times the county has ward and soil conservation, the Harnett region, what else a big thing they promoted. Sheriff has been there, just all type of civil servants. So welcome back.
I want the good people in the churches to vote, but I don't think the Board of Elections should be going into churches. I'm a big believer in that, and I'll be in church Sunday morning.
They have activities where, which are extracurricular, but these people have a thirst for being educated on the voting process. In fact, that's why we push so hard for the souls to the polls.
We've got it right here on tape too.
Well, that's good. You know, having it on tape is really good, but these are things that we do that help support and solidify and draw attention to what we do with the.
But that's coming from the church in this direction. I'm talking about that other direction, us going to the church as a board.
Well, in some communities, political information, that's the only way this is assimilated. So sometimes we have to go where where people are.
I do want to make one comment. I'm not opposed to anything on here, but I play devil's advocate for a second. When we start talking about business cards, shirts, things like that, we do also have to keep in mind that board members only appointed to a 2-year term. So even though it is possible to be reappointed over and over and over again, it is very possible a person's only gonna serve a 2-year term. So I think we need, like a set, like, is there a certain number of business cards? Like, should it be more generic? Like, I just feel like we need more clarification on this stuff because of the fact that we
Business
may be turnover with the boards. And then as far as the .gov, the county hasn't moved to .gov yet, so if setting up an email wouldn't be as hard, but it would be .org for right now to the
Right,
county.
that's fine, yeah. And on the first point there, as far as the cards go, I believe I got, the last time I bought business cards, they were $1,000 for $30.
Mhm. Yeah.
They're not, it's not a big item,
Yeah,
and I don't know if we need 1,000, we need 500. But if we're successful, we order a second time.
yeah, and that's why I said, just for clarification, because do we want the business cards to have the term on it? Do we want it not to have a term on it?
No
Simply
term, just
because
contact
one
information.
person
Yeah, it's
is no longer
contact.
on
I
the
think
board.
it needs to have a term on it, because if, 2 years from now, somebody's not on the board, but they still have their business cards, I just don't think that's.
Oh, that's a good point.
So I just want to point that out, that was my 2 cents.
Do you want me to make a motion on that, on those things?
But, and as far as the shirt, if we're members, I mean, you just don't order one the next year that nobody's on the term, but if we're working, I think
I mean,
I don't want a used one anyway.
I don't
I
think,
don't want a used one anyway.
I mean, I can speak for someone who may be in that category. If I had a shirt with or cards with Harnett County Board of Election, these are tools that we use to promote the Board of Election. I don't have a problem with, if I'm not on the board, having a shirt to say Harnett County Board of Elections. Let's advertise it. As far as handing out cards, I don't need to hand out a card for the Harnett County Board of Elections if I'm approached or if I'm talking to someone. I can say,
I don't carry
okay,
my work
this
cards.
is how it works, this is where you can go. It would be a big issue for me.
But when we go to events or things, I mean, as far as.
Yeah, just go to
Yeah.
events.
Yeah, I think it's good, I just feel like we
If
need
we're
more
looking
clarification
uniform,
on what
you know.
we want
Yeah.
on these things.
Yeah. The county logo is, we own the county. I mean, every taxpayer owns this, so we can walk around with a shirt on and say, yeah.
Well, let me-
Not a big deal.
Bill, can we take that as information, because you had a lot of things in there,
Yeah,
and I want a little more time to look at them, if we could just take that as information, if you would be okay with that.
I can break it down, I'd be okay with breaking it down, because the main points are having business cards, office mails, and business mailing address. If we have those things, those are some tools we can use to get the word out and start integrating with our community. The other things, the shirts, the whistles, whatever, I don't care about any of that stuff. If you want to get that, that's fine, if you don't, that's fine. I want the marketing ability to speak to people.
Yeah.
So, in that regard, I move the Harnett County Board of Elections adopt the following recommendations. All board members be issued business cards, office emails, business mailing addresses, and create pickup mailbox slots in our election headquarters.
And this one more time?
and
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you got business cards, office email, mail at the BOE office. Is there a fourth one?
Create pickup mailbox slots in our election headquarters. In other words, when the mail comes in, we have a slot, we can stop in and see if we got any mail today.
Bill, I would go along, well, gotta have a second before we have a discussion.
Second, anyone?
I'll say.
Okay.
I don't want an office email. I have enough emails coming into me every day. And if they need to communicate the email, they can go through Claire.
Well, I would accept that as an amendment just for you.
Yeah, and also, I don't feel the need for business cards or an office email or a slot, so maybe, I'm fine with other people doing it, but I just don't need it for myself, so. I mean, I maybe amend the
We
motion
can amend it
to
to
whichever
board members.
whichever board
Would
members
they go on
want
a
it.
volunteer basis, maybe?
Yeah. Whoever,
If members-
whichever board member.
Yeah.
requests.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Make it on a volunteer basis. Volunteer basis, if someone don't want it.
Oh, yeah, if they request it.
Yeah. That's right, and I want to have promoted, maybe.
Okay, we got it.
Would you, say that motion one more time?
Yeah.
That way, I can go to the recording and
Yeah, okay.
get it in
And
the
since
minutes.
it's volunteer, add the shirts for whoever wants.
Okay. I move that the Harnett County Board of Elections adopt the following recommendations. All board members who request be issued business cards, office emails, business mailing addresses, and create pickup mailbox slots in our election headquarters. And what did you want? The
Shirts.
and shirts.
Sure.
I mean, we go to events.
Okay. That's legitimate.
You know, and I will say this, you
Instead
know,
of trying to find something.
if I, can I,
Kathy's in a shirt, go to the meeting.
can I say, I know there's a motion in a second, can I just say one thing?
Sure.
I understand what, Bill's doing. A lot of it had to do with what we saw at conference, and you mentioned how you saw other, counties representing their, the Board of Elections, in a positive light. And this is, all he's doing is trying to help demystify, the Board of Elections and to make it accessible, that people feel like this is their board, and so it's a good thing. It's not to put any burden on anyone. It's just to help promote. He's trying to help us.
Yeah, well, that's why it's volunteer,
Yes.
too.
So we have a
Okay, you wanna call
motion
the
and a
question?
second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Well, I have one other one, but I think I'll put it off to the next board.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're right.
I'm tired.
It's been a long day, Bill.
So I was about to put a pin in it, so we gotta do what we can.
All right, so with that, we will move forward with the absentee part of our business, which should not take long. Let me get this stuff out of the way. So everybody has in front of them the absentee list.
Just, it'll take a minute.
Yeah, hold on.
The
Building.
building,
Yes.
was that on there?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
That was one that
I
you had.
can make short to this.
Yes.
Okay.
We incorporated the request for a new facility for the Harnett County Board of Elections. Initially, when we were talking about recruitment and retention. Then it was bifurcated, and we took the recruitment and retention issue and dealt with that. And so far, it's been a very favorable result. We've had 3 or 4 meetings with HR and the county manager and assistant manager, and they did an excellent presentation, because she's in the room.
I heard HR, so I don't know anything.
She's, but as a result, I think we have a reasonable increase for staff and pay adjustments that were going to be presented to the Board of Commissioners. But we haven't addressed, and I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we need a new facility. We're woefully inadequate, but I need a little bit of help from the board in getting specific information, because when we go to the commissioners, they're going to want specifics. What floor space do we need? Do we want to get someone to, an architect to draft a architectural rendition of a concept of what we have? Where do we want it located? Do we want it large enough for parking facilities? Are we going to do our one-stop voting facilities? In the building itself, will we have accommodations to, for example, have voting there regularly like we do over at the Commons? Are we going to be able to have our meetings there like we're doing today? And additionally, do we have a space for, office space for all of the staff and current and more? Are we going to accommodate our storage facilities within that building so people don't have to run back and forth switching things around just to get the voting places? So there's a lot of issues that have to be addressed. So I would encourage any of you or all of you to put your pencils to paper and give me your thoughts on that stuff so we can put it together and then get it to the point where we can make a presentation to the Board of Commissioners.
All right, now Claire.
Well, I will just add to that, that I did submit again for this year's capital improvement plan with the county, the question of getting us a new facility. And the commissioners currently have it in the CIP as a future, meaning they don't have any set plans for it. But it has been resubmitted to the county admin and county commissioner, so.
Well, that's good.
I'm still pushing it too.
Yeah, I don't wanna lose sight of it
Mhm.
because it's a slow process. What did we, first time was 3 years ago that you were asking for it?
I think it's
And-
been longer than
5
that.
years, 10 years.
It's
And
been longer
it seemed
than that.
we're the stepchild, you know, we're the last one on the list. But we'll see if we can put a good presentation together that's impactful.
It's been since Dr. Taylor said we were in a school bus.
Oh, gosh. What dollar figure did we be asking for that building?
Do what?
What kind of dollar figure, the price tag?
We don't have.
We don't
plans
know
We
yet.
have tax tag, okay, we'll just, okay.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the absentee list.
Yes.
The list in front of you does have, 2 names on it, but we have 3 today to review because the third one has to be, reviewed by the board before it can be added to the list. And I will show you those. So you have the 2 on the list, and here are the 3. So basically, the 2 went through, approval fine because everything was on, you don't wanna come this way?
Yep.
Everything was on there, but the third one here has an ID, a reasonable impediment form, and so this one needs to be reviewed by the board and approved before it can be entered into the system as approved, although it still will go through the machine today.
Claire, did I need to cut the cameras?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot.